Okay, our third session today continues on into some company-level customization. Again, we kind of consider a few of those things basic. Day 3 really should be more advanced, labeled advanced administration, because we're going to roll on into reports today. And as we go through our company-level customization items, we'll first enter a topic of list pages. And this is our first entry into the selection of fields for filtering and querying, and then how the list pages work. We'll go over that fully, and then that's a nice kind of springboard into the full reporting functionality. Okay. So our first topic again is going into some company profile and then appearance and application customization. So company level configuration, we kind of break these items out a little separately. We're going to deal with items in the company profile, and it's pretty basic info about your corporate or company level account items. However, there are a couple of little factors in play here in the selection of the primary contact. Okay, the primary contact options are going to come from the users that are listed as application administrators. Okay, so anyone here could then be selected as your primary contact. What that means is they're going to sometimes receive special announcements or information from Salesnet about releases or updates. Also, anyone selected as the primary contact is going to get the auto notifications about inaccurate logins, the lockdown notices when users inactivate themselves. Then the other thing to understand about your basic company information is that that information gets pre-populated into the Add User area. So if you're just getting started or you are adding new users to the system, the contact information for address and phone and locale, all those settings will be pulled from this area, okay, to pre-populate the user profile page. And then finally, the bottom section here where we talk about the company support information. Okay, this is additional support info for your users. And a number of our customers run their own support desk. They have a website where users can file tickets, or they even have a third-party support team that they would like to reference. And when you fill in the information here in this section, okay, it automatically populates the support section on the Help Center page, okay, for additional support info. Okay, so let's go into our Salesnet account here and take a look at that. Okay, so in our demo account, if we go look at the Help Center, okay, where we see additional company contact info, sorry, okay, this information comes from the support field on the company profile. Okay. And the company profile page is located in company configuration just below user configuration in the setup area, so just one below. Then we have some tallying about how many seats there are and how many of them are set to use mobile or the normal online application. And we're also still listing offline here. And just, keep in mind that the offline portion of Salesnet will retire at some point later this year, hopefully. We're going to kind of move on past that because the mobile interfaces for the phone and the pad are all more developed now, so offline is somewhat retiring out of the system. Okay. The second item under company configuration is really geared towards calendar and fiscal tracking. So many of us are on a different fiscal year, okay, than the normal calendar year. And if that's the case, you can set up your fiscal year dates. Okay, and you can see in this screenshot we're running all the way from 2011 through 2016. So what that does is it allows you to pick fiscal year date formats for dashboards and reports. So if you want to see the annual forecast or the next year, you could do it for a fiscal year. Okay, and a lot of us run maybe from October 1st, through September 30th, and Salesnet will automatically roll that information for you so that you don't have to do calculations or odd date filters. Okay, if you're not using fiscal year settings, then you don't have to fill this in. But what will happen is if you pick fiscal year times or fiscal year timestamps in your dashboards or reports, you will get an error because it will say, hey, you've not filled in your fiscal year settings, for that time frame. Okay, so just note, if you're going to pick fiscal year in any display options, you have to have filled this in. And at the top, we have a couple of settings for display week numbers. That actually just means on the small calendar on our calendar tab, you can have Salesnet display the week number for the year. And I think, for U.S. companies, that's not very common. We see that more in our European customers. But where you'll see that in Salesnet, okay, is in the calendar area. If we look at this little mini calendar display, you'll see it says week 23, 24, 25. Okay, that's from selecting yes, okay, in the calendar settings. Okay, so that's just here at the top. And then, what day of the week do you want your calendar to start on? And so these are all company level settings. Okay, the users, if you select this, that's what they're going to be locked into. Okay, so there's no additional selection for them to make to customize this information. Okay, so that was pretty quick. A couple of short sections there from company configuration, and we're going to go right into now the appearance and application customization. Okay, they kind of go hand in hand from company configuration down into this menu. Okay, and we have a couple of different items here. So we have the reterming of our highest level objects like accounts, contacts, opportunities, as well as fields. We have company logo upload. Okay, and then we have custom tab management. Okay, so we're going to go over all of those. Okay, so company defined terms not only applies to the field level, but it also applies to the tabs across the top of the page. Okay, and you can rename leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, and campaigns today. Going forward, okay, in some weeks, you're going to have the ability to rename every tab in the system, and even use, if you're an organization that supports a second language, you could customize your environment to support a non-English language. But if you'll look at the radio buttons across the top, you can switch to which main object you would like to reterm. Okay, and so you can see in this environment, so we're using account as account. We've renamed opportunities, from our old deal language. And as I select those, I get to rename the main term as well as the built-in fields that go with it. Okay, so there's a singular and a plural term for each main object. So you'll see the plural term is used on our tabs. And then we have an abbreviation. And this abbreviation will be important as we get into the queries, list pages, and reporting functionality. Because when you go to pick fields from the different area, Salesnet puts that abbreviation on the front of the field name so that you know what area of the system you're selecting the field from. Okay, what is PO number? Is it an opportunity field or an account field? And Salesnet uses that abbreviation to let you know that. Then we have something to the right called vowel sound. And this is just those odd, nuances in the English language where you have a word that starts with a consonant, but it really should be pronounced almost like with a vowel sound. Perfect example is like hour. So you say an hour instead of a hour. Okay, so if you rename your tab to something like that, you can check off the vowel sound to handle those scenarios when you see it displayed in phrasing and alert messages in Salesnet. Okay, keep in mind that when you reterm your built-in field names here, you can reterm them all in one pass, right? But you can also go and reterm a field at a time by going to field management. So this is another one of those areas where you can do more than one. You can do one thing from multiple places. Okay, so if I go look at my opportunity fields and I want to rename my notes field, okay, so I'm in field management under opportunities, and if I click edit, I can name this as, maybe we'll call it comments instead. So comments, okay, and you'll see comments has been pushed here now. And it's a built-in field, but it's really my notes field, right? So if I go look at this information from appearance and application customization, and I go to my company defined terms, I can go to opportunity, and now you'll see my notes field, okay, is called comments. Okay, and I can change it back if I want. Okay, so I'm really just doing, from a field naming standpoint, I can also do this from field management. Okay, performs the same function. And again, if we go to account and we want to change this to company and companies, and I can change my abbreviation to CMP, you'll see it changes it out here, and my tab automatically renames. You can see my add link renames. Okay, so we're changing out the tabs all the way across the board. Then we're just showing you from the user perspective, yes, we're changing the tab names, and then field names, okay, are automatically displayed in the detail layout with the new naming. Okay, so whatever your field label is from field management, that's what they're going to see when they're working from the detail page. Okay, then we have company logo upload. That's your second menu item under appearance and application customization. Okay, and you've got the ability to upload a logo that's 150 by 40, so a relatively small logo. Okay, then you can put a link behind it so that you can launch maybe your corporate website or maybe an intranet site if you have an intranet portal for your employees. So you can just change that URL out and launch a window. Okay, and then you also have the ability to pass data across the URL. So if you're trying to launch a site that would require, some settings to launch it correctly, then you can put those into this window. Okay, and typically, just for, and I would say folks like me, a little atypical, most of your launching, okay, into these, websites or things is via Git. Okay, especially if you're just launching your corporate kind of commercial site, then you're probably selecting Git in that form action. That's one that always can be a little challenging. Okay, then we're going to go right into custom tabs. Okay, custom tabs, that's the next two menu items under appearance and application customization, and that is the ability to put custom tabs out to the right, okay, of your main tab row here. So past campaigns, any tabs you see would be custom tabs that have been added for your company. Okay, so a custom tab can point to two different kind of pages. One, we can build panels So let's say you're asking your users to track their time. We can add IQ time in. They can log in, enter their time, and they're kind of doing it all from within Salesnet, it seems. So custom tabs can have panels that point to other websites, internal or external, or a custom tab can have panels that point back to your built-in list pages. So you'll see here in this screenshot, we're showing a leads panel and a contacts panel at the same time. So I can search, for information in the two panels kind of at the same time, so I can see them together. Okay. So how do we create custom tabs? Well, first of all, we have to define what's going to go in the tab. And so each tab, okay, can have multiple panels. So I could put the contact page and the D&B research page side by side. Okay, those would be two separate panels on the same page. So first we have to set up our panels. Like we said, we're going to have a number of built-in panels, and then we'll have a number of custom panels that you can add for yourself. So really what you want to do is use the second menu item first, the Manage Custom Tab panels, to make sure you have the panels that you want. Okay, and here you'll see Hoovers and our time entry. We have LinkedIn, UPS. Okay, and so whatever it is from a custom website, you'll want to have those set up first. And there's just a quick wizard. You know, when you click on the tab panel menu item, you click the Add button, and then you enter your panel name, the URL, and how it should be launched. You know, is it a get or a post? Then here we can pass IDs to these receiving panels as well. Okay, so let's say one of your custom tabs might be a report from a report engine, a data warehouse reporting tool. You might pass the report ID along on that panel, and it would automatically launch that report for you. Okay, so this is one of those areas, you know, it depends on how the receiving site works, and if you have any questions, you definitely can come back into, you know, our service or support team to get those answered. Okay, but once you've set up your panels, then all you have to do is set up a tab, okay, create the tab, and then point to the panels that you want. All right, so again, when you click on Manage Custom Tabs, you click the Add button, you enter the name, the description here that's going to show in the tab, all right, and then we decide, do we want the information from that tab to open in the window, you know, just beneath our header row in Salesnet, or do we want to launch a new window? And once you decide that, then you can pick what you want your panel layout to be. So is our custom tab going to hold one panel, or is it going to hold two, horizontally or vertically divided, or three? So we have different configurations, and then you assign your panels from here. So each one of these drop downs makes available to you either your list panels or your custom panels. Okay, and then a tab can be shared via the PTU. So remember our position team user sharing. Okay, we can share that via the PTU, so everyone doesn't have to see the custom tab. Okay, and then we can make it available to all, or we can create tabs just for divisions or users. All right, so this takes us into application modules, enabling those. So I want to kind of jump from here into Salesnet, and let's look at the custom tabs and panels that we have here. So across the top, if we just, from a user standpoint, if I go to Leads and Contacts, okay, this looks much like our screenshot from our presentation, and you can see it's like I'm working in Leads and Contacts at the same time, right? So if I want to search for all email addresses with test in them, I can look at that in Leads, and same for Contacts. I can look at it in Contacts. So I'm working both panels, again, at the same time. Then let's look at our Research tab. So the Research tab is kind of interesting in that we're unable to launch what we wanted to launch from a web standpoint. Okay, let me make sure we have access here. So we were trying to show this web page, but for some reason it's not available to us online. So I have two panels, two built-in panels, and then I wanted to show a web page here. So let's actually go and pick a web page that we can securely or confidently, I guess, launch. Okay, so if I go look at my panels, I have 4 custom panels built here. Okay, I have 5 built in, and then I have 4 custom. And so let's go look at our UPS panel. And let's put it in place. So we're going to rename our IQ time. We're going to rename it to UPS. So let's say we have a UPS account that we ship out of pretty frequently, and I'm making it available to all users. You'll see the panel, the tab name changed immediately, and when I click on UPS, because I'm going to a non-secure site, it initially, from a browser standpoint, wants me to approve that. And so what I wanted to show you is, even though we've put in the correct address, okay, what UPS is telling us that UPS does not allow their website to be launched in a frame. Okay, so this being the bottom frame of the window. So we have to launch it in a new window. Okay, so I need to go change one more thing about my UPS tab. Okay, so if I go back to my UPS tab, I had picked it to not open in a new window, but open in this bottom area. So if you're trying to reach an external website, okay, and they don't allow you to launch in someone else's website, and that's typically UPS, LinkedIn, Google Maps, some of the larger website providers of data. They're very restrictive on how you can launch their information, and you can't wrap their site in your site. So I'm picking to launch it in a new window now. So this is going to refresh. So now when I pick UPS, okay, it launches fine. Okay, but I am in a new window because UPS will not allow us to launch this information in our window. Okay, but this is working. So if you want to launch LinkedIn, you can launch LinkedIn this way. Okay, and if a person is logged in because of cookies and caching, it launches them into LinkedIn and allows them to automatically be in their LinkedIn account and perform research. Okay. So let's look at a website that maybe we can launch straight away or easily. So I'm going to configure another panel, and I want to point to Salesstream. So this is a online video marketing tool. And I'm going to save this. So I've created another panel, okay, and here in my 1/2, my research panel, my tab, sorry, I'm going to trade Salesstream for the first position. Okay, so if you'll see here, I can pick any combination. If I want to go back to 2 panels, I can, and I can pick between what I have, the panels I have available. I can go back to 3. So Salesstream, contacts, companies, and it's broken out between user panels or custom panels and then pre-built panels, which are your list pages. I click Next, Save, go to my research page, okay, and now you'll see my Salesstream sites coming up as well as my 2 panels. So again, if you have a website or a portal or an intranet site, okay, that allows itself to be launched within a page, then you can launch it next to another panel, another built-in list page, another website. Okay, so just creating that custom environment for our users. Okay, and then finally we just want to have a quick summary. We've already gone over this in leads and campaigns, but you can enable or disable the leads and campaign modules from here as well. Okay, so list pages. Let's talk about what's available on our list pages or our list tabs. Okay, first of all, we have queries that a user can work with or choose from, and the queries is this first drop down. Okay, on the top left of every tab: leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, and campaigns. Okay, and so when we look at our query drop-down, there's potentially 3 selections for a user. It's their built-in queries, which come with the system. Okay, and that's query by user, by team, by position. Okay, our PTU. In the leads area, you'll also have a query for leads of queue. And then we have like a recently accessed. So what's the last 20 records I looked at? Then we have my queries, and that would be any query that that user owns. Okay, so based on their permissions in their user profile, they could have the ability to build their own queries. Okay, and they would see those under My Queries. And then we have shared queries. Okay, so these are queries that someone else has built in the system and then shared them with users. Okay, and shared them via the PTU. Okay, and again, based on a person's permissions, they can maybe view queries or run them. They can then edit and create their own, and then they can have an additional privilege to share. Okay, and so this is the user's first selection regarding what is the data that they want to see, what records do they want to bring back, and we can use queries to kind of give us that quick starting base of records. Now, the next piece that goes along with querying is turning on the filter functionality on the list page. And so based on the query that they pick plus the filtering that they apply, okay, the user's going to get a set of records that they can work with. Okay, so if I want to kind of research all of the companies that we have in Georgia, then I maybe want to query on all companies and then filter on the state of Georgia. Versus I want to look at all of my companies in Georgia. Maybe I use the quick query for my companies and then use the state of Georgia as the filter. Okay, so the filter is just additive based to the query that they've already chosen. Okay, and you'll notice to turn on the filter bar, you just check the filter checkbox, and then anytime a filter has been applied, okay, a field has been chosen to filter on, you'll see it highlighted blue. Okay, so this tells you, okay, this field has an active filter on it, and anytime there's a field that's been activated, you see the active notation here. Okay, so let's go look at that really quick on the list page. Okay, so you see when I came into this page, this field's blue. I can already see that it's filtering on ABC. Obviously my filter bar is on, and active is notated here for me. So even if I had a filter on and it was off the page because I had so many columns on my list page, okay, if I saw active here, I would know that there was a filter enabled somewhere. Now, you can get rid of your filtering by one of two means. You can turn it off by the field and say no filter, and that disables it. And so the filter bar is still on, but the active notation goes away. Okay, so if I put another filter back on, the other way that I can clear filtering is just by unchecking the box. That clears all filters if you happen to have multi-fields filtered on, and I check it and put it back on. Okay. We typically, in best practice, advise users to always leave your filter bar on, okay, because it's just very handy to quickly find data when you're in a tab. Now, the second portion to the list pages, okay, that allows the user to almost have this somewhat of a reporting environment is being able to pick the layout that you want to look at. Okay, and the layout is the second drop down under query. Okay, and this controls what field you see. So query controls the data that you're pulling back, and layout controls the fields that you want to see for those records that are coming back to you. So the layout can contain built-in fields and custom fields. Okay, it can hold up to 30 fields. Okay, and when you have more than one layout available to you, you either see them in the My Layout section if you own it, or a published layout, which is one that someone has shared with you. Okay. Now, where do the permissions come from that control who can build layouts, who can share them, which layouts you might see? Those are available here on the user profile. So we have a list queries, run, create, edit, delete, publish. And then we have list layouts, view, create, edit, delete, publish. Okay, so you just kind of layer those on. Minimum, we want the users to be able to view layouts and run queries. Okay, then from there, you can provide them with extra privileges. From an admin standpoint, okay, you probably want to be a little restrictive on who you give publish privileges to. Okay, it's one thing for users to be able to build their own. It's another for them to publish them out and maybe start filling up, other people's query and list selections. Okay, and that can become a little bit of an administrative issue or take you more time to manage fields, because when a field has been used in a list layout or a query, it can't be deleted. Okay, so there's a number of reasons to kind of keep control of that publishing privilege and make sure that only you've given it out only to selected users. Okay, so now we're going to walk through building a query. Okay, this is all done from the actual list pages. But similar concept, when we wanted to add a field in the setup area, we would go to the correct data area. Okay, so I want to add a contact field. We'll go to contacts, field management. Okay, similarly here, if I wanted to add an opportunity query, okay, I would go to the opportunity tab. Okay, and if you've got the ability to build queries, you're going to see a plus sign to the right of the query dropdown. Okay, very simple. When you click that plus sign, it launches a little two-page wizard here. First page being the area where you name it, and then you select fields for filtering. Okay, and you can select more than one field to filter on, and in this environment, it's purely an AND filter. Okay, so any filters, any fields that you add here, the system is going to AND those filters together. You can also copy from one if you already have one in the system that you own and you want to start from it. Okay, so name it and set your field filtering. So first, we're filtering on the data. Okay, so data fields only. The second page to our wizard, okay, is an ownership filter. And this is very important. All of the reporting and everything we do from here on out requires two filter settings, one on data and then one on ownership. So we can build a query that looks across all records, or we could build a query that looked at records owned by a particular position team user, PTU. Okay, so we could almost hard code this ownership. Well, I only want to see, the cross-selling teams records. Okay, you can see I could select that team here. So again, when we start our when we start our query, our first page we filter on data, second page we filter on ownership, and then third page, if you have the publishing privilege, you pick who you want to share it with. Okay, and again, that's by the PTU. Who can see this query in their query dropdown? And these look very similar. It can be a little misleading, so you have to really read the the labels. First page ownership, second page sharing or publishing. Okay, so let's look at layouts in the same way. So if you've got the ability to create your own layouts, again, you're going to have a plus sign out to the right of the layout drop-down. In the first page, you give your layout a name, and then you pick the fields that you want to see, okay, up to 30 fields. The other thing I want to point out, I didn't really mention it from the other screenshot, is if you are the owner of the layout or the query and you want to change something about it, all you have to do is select it in the drop-down, and if you own it, you'll see the Edit pencil. Okay, and you can edit the layout from that point. Okay, and it walks you through the same screens. Okay, so now we're in the Add screen for layout. And when you add multiple fields here, you can click on them and drag and drop them to change the order. Okay, we can control whether they wrap the data inside the field, or we can truncate and just show, say, 20 characters of a field. Okay, so you can play with different combinations here. These next two checkboxes apply to something called inline editing. Okay, and I'm going to show you what this means when we go back into Salesnet and look at this live. So first screen for layouts, name it and pick your fields. If you already have one that you like and you want to start from it, you can copy from one. And then our second screen is just who we're going to share it with. Okay, there's no additional configuration here. You just need to pick from the PTU, okay, who's going to have access to this layout. Okay, so let's go into Salesnet. All right, and let's look at editing layouts and queries. And I'm actually going to work from the Opportunities tab. Okay, and you'll see in our query drop-down, we have a number of built-in and some queries that I own. And then in the layouts, we have lots of layouts that I own. All right, so let's go look at opportunities of user. Okay, so this is one of our built-in queries, and we pick user 01. Okay, and we get that quick list combined with the filtering that I have in place. Okay, if I go back to my opportunities, okay, it just is automatically, it's just giving me that quick query. And so now let's go to all open ops with value. Okay, so if you can imagine, that probably means any opportunity with an open status that has a dollar amount, right, specified for that opportunity. So let's edit this query and see what it's made of. That popped up over here. So I have two filters in place. One is for outcome is, one of no outcome. Okay, and I can make an is not. So I could say an is not won or lost. It's kind of the same thing. So is one of, no outcome. And then value, I can do the same thing, is not or is. And then I have some more of a logical operators here. And I'm saying is greater than 0. Okay, I could add another data filter here if I wanted to. So I could pick another field here and so say where the current step, and when I pick my field, I click Add Filter, and it adds a third one. And I could say is one of, or is, let's do an is equal to, close. So all open ops with value, all open ops, what, and we're saying close, closing. With value. Okay, so I'm just naming my query, so maybe I can make some sense of it, you know, when I'm looking at it in the list, the select list. Okay, if I want to take one off, I just click the remove link and it pops it off the list. When I click next, I have my second screen here for ownership filtering, right? And I'm currently filtered on all opportunities. Okay. And then I pick who I want to share it with. And I'm sharing it or publishing it to all users. So if you guys log into your training admin account, you would see this all open ops close with value. So save, and you'll immediately see my result. It refreshed, and my result set immediately filtered down to that additional filtering of close. And now I have, okay, a filtered field here. So I have 3 filters set in the query, and I've added an additional date one, via the filter bar. If I take that off, okay, well, there happen to not be any more data to return here, okay. Now I can go and let's look at all deals in the close step. Okay, so a number of them were finished in the close step, we can see here. And we have a few more that have come back, okay, because we're not filtering on the dollar amount now. Okay, so we can see how the query very quickly changes, okay, what is coming back to the screen. Now let's look at layout. So right now I'm looking at something called My Deal Layout. Okay, let's go look at the support issues. See how that changed? And there's no dollar amount here. I have a due date that I can filter by. And I can see how long this issue has been open in the system. Okay, I can see who the contact is. So this is an example. So maybe this layout I maybe shared with my care center or my service center team, and they're able to look at just their service desk issues. So they might have a query for service items and a layout for service items. So same thing, I could build a new one if I want, or I can edit, and I can work with the fields from here. Now, my first screen for picking fields, again, is just to select them and move them over, and I can rearrange the order if I want. Okay, so just by clicking on the name and holding it down and moving it up. Now here you can see my abbreviations are in play. So OPP colon, this tells me that this is an opportunity field. So I have several opportunity fields. Then I have some contact fields here. And I don't have any company fields pulled yet. If I want to add fields from one of the different areas, I just click the radio button. Okay, and now I can add company name if I want to. So I could see the company of the contact, right, that the contact is linked to. But you'll see that the abbreviation stays here so that I can easily tell, okay, what area, what data area this field came from. The thing I also want to point out is as you add it here, we're providing a label, okay, for the list page. So work mobile, I changed to just mobile. Okay, so you can see that here. Keep that in mind because if you change your field names in field management, you may need to come back and revisit your list pages to change your field labels on your list page so that it continues to align. So I pick those, I click next, I can pick who I want to share this with or publish to, and I click save. The other thing I want to point out is I did add company name, and you can see it's up front, and we kind of dragged a few things around. The other thing to keep in mind for your users is that if you modify the list pages, they may need to reset their list page because Salesnet works off of the premise that it tries to remember what the user wanted to do. It tries to let them customize, the order of the fields and what they're sorting by. But at some point, if so many things change or the user is unhappy with how their layout looks, they can right-click on the header row where the labels are and choose Restore Default Settings. Okay, that immediately sets everything back to kind of a starting point, and it now obeys the field order and the initial settings that you've put in place from a layout creation standpoint. Okay, so finally in the list layout area, let's talk about inline editing. Okay, inline editing is a quick form that you can make available to your users so that they can modify data. Okay, it's a permission in the user profile, And if it's enabled for a user, they'll see this arrow show up to the left. Okay, it's an arrow that points back to the right. What that means is when you pick that, okay, it's going to open up a form, and then you'll see the arrow kind of tilts down. It's somewhat pointing to the form. So what you'll see is now I have a little quick edit form for just the fields that are on this list page. So each one of our records, like opportunity and company, there may be 20 or 30 fields actually on the detail page, but we're giving them a quick form where they can edit just the fields on the list page. And you'll notice some of them are required, okay, but you're not seeing all of the fields here. Let's see, so we don't see the issue age, okay? Why is that? Well, that's where the settings come into play, and I'm going to cancel this, in the list layout. For the checkboxes over to the right, okay, you can designate what's required and what is view only. If something is view only, that means the user can see it in the list page, but if they drop open the inline edit, they're not going to be able to edit it from there. Okay, so I'm only going to make the mobile field be the editable field here. Okay, everything else is going to be view only. And I can make mobile required. Okay, so what's going to be required then on the inline edit form is whatever I've said is required, plus whatever the system requires, like account name and owner, opportunity name, finish date. Those are all fields at a system level that are required. But now when we open this up, then I would expect mobile to be required, but nothing else is even going to be editable because I've made it all view only. Okay, so let's open up the inline edit form here. And you can see the only field that shows up is the mobile. And so I can come in here and I can change it. Now you see it has periods in it. So what we've come to learn or understand about the inline edit form is that users who are in the system and they're recording activity and they have very specific roles in managing opportunities and tasks, they're more likely to go through the standard workflow of just record activity. They may go edit the record. The inline edit can almost be maybe a little distracting for them. The inline edit is particularly handy for users who are more on a activity tracking goal. So they need to make 50 calls a day. They need to manage the data and keep the database updated. In that case, the inline edit can be very efficient. It saves them managing pop-ups and just getting to the quick form that they want. And keep in mind, if you have the need for inline edit, you could create a layout that's dedicated to an inline edit function. So if someone's in kind of data update mode, they could switch over to their quick data layout and then just work their way through that layout using the inline edit screen. But if they're just in normal mode where they're recording activity, managing opportunities, they might decide to look at something more like their pipeline layout, okay, where they can review the data, record activity, etc. Okay, so let's go look at our tips and tricks here, or not tips and tricks, but just our tips. We create queries, for common searches. So if in your organization it's important to be able to look at records based on region, okay, then you might want to create a Southeast account query, a Northeast account query, those kind of things. And that just saves users from having to apply the filters that they need. We create different layouts for different groups and for different functions. So a service layout geared towards the service group, or if you have someone managing data in your database, maybe a quick layout that allows them to do inline editing. We always remind folks to customize with your logo. I think most of you have already done that. And then just remember that when you reterm built-in fields, in the application customization menu, you're doing the same thing as if you were reterming the field names from field management. Okay? And then custom tabs, again, can point to other internet sites, intranet sites, as well as your built-in list pages. Okay, now we're going to go into the document library. So what is the library? It's a pretty basic concept in that it's a storage point for you and your users. Okay, so we typically see general documents stored here, like logos, marketing materials, sales collateral. Maybe you have some standard terms, conditions, or contracts, but it becomes a central repository, and you can grant access to users to upload documents there, and you can control which documents they can see for download. The document library administrator can control the tree structure found in the document library node, okay, as well as they have the ability to look across, all documents in the system. And then the document library has a tree structure for navigation, but then it also has the same kind of grid filtering functionality so that you can filter on documents even further. Okay. So in the document library, if you look down the left-hand side, you're going to see the tree navigation. Okay. Within the document library tree, if you're an administrator, you can right-click and add folders, add document, okay, start your document upload. You can rename and delete folders, and then you can also alphabetize them, to enforce some order there. Okay, so we can manage folders in the document library node and then in the templates node. Okay, so under Word templates, you could build out subfolders to store your Word templates. And now Word templates, this ties into our Word add-in. Okay, so if someone is building templates in Word add-in and uploading them here, they would show up in this menu at the bottom of the page. Okay. Just a quick description for what our main folders support. Document library is that general document area. Attached documents is actually a combined view of all the attached documents in your system. Okay, so if folks are attaching documents to account records or opportunity records, attached documents node is going to give you a summarization of all of those so you can search across them. Merge history, this is any word merge that someone has performed with one of your merge templates. Okay, so this is just an accounting of who's been merging documents. And then merge templates holds the templates from the Word add-in. Okay, so let's go look at our document library real quick in our live account. Okay, and you'll see not only do we have the nodes for organization, okay, but you also have recent and search. So this is how you can search across, all the folders without having to dive into each one. In attached documents, you're going to see here, I'm getting back a list of attachments, 31, and they're attached to different records, contacts, companies, opportunities. I can have a link to the actual record that they're attached to. I can filter on type or size, the date that it might have been uploaded, okay, the name of the document itself and who did it. So a lot of flexibility here in querying across your attached documents. Then merge history. Okay, we can see, we've merged one letter here back in March. And if we click on that, we can see what record that it was linked to or merged from. And then here we can manage our Word templates. Okay, and I just want to show the concept of drag and drop. So in this area, when you're looking at a tree structure, if you want to reorganize items within a folder, okay, you just simply grab it and drag it to a subfolder, okay, and it tells you that it was moved. Okay. Same thing with a folder itself. If I want to re-nest it under a different parent, I just drag and drop it as well. Okay, so document library overview, and then we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll come back for our reporting section. Okay, so let's start our section on reports. We'll first have an overview of the reports area and how it's organized. So when you go to the reports tab, you'll see the tree folder structure down the left, and we're organized in our similar data fashion, right? So each one of our major data tabs, lead, account, contact, opportunity, each has a folder in the reports area, so those reports are obviously geared towards those records. Then we have an activity reporting node, and this is where we talked about activities. Okay, in Salesnet, from a reporting standpoint, we talk about all the things that a user might do to record steps and tasks, appointments, emails. So we can roll those up across all different kinds of records, okay, to describe the activity that a person has had in the system. Okay. Then we have a node at the bottom called Legacy Reports, gives you some basic kind of login information and some built-in funnel reporting. And our nodes at the top, Recent and Search, okay, you'll see those types of nodes at the top of almost any tree, okay, when you look at Document Library, Communicate, and Reports. And this basically tells you what's the last 25, 50, 100 reports you touched, as well as a search node that lets you search across all the reports in the system that you have access to. Then we also, not just a reporting function do we offer, but there's also a snapshot function. Okay, and this is the ability to snapshot the data that is coming back in a report at any point in time. So we can take monthly snapshots, maybe of our commissioning reports, or maybe of our pipeline at a certain point in the month. Okay, and then the nice thing about snapshots is once you have snapshots created, you can run them through the comparison tool. Okay, so we're going to go through that as well. Okay, what do we have in the system to start with? We have a number of pre-built reports. Okay, so when you open up any one of the menus, activity, lead, account, contact, opportunity, you're going to see a pre-built folder. And in the pre-built folder, those are system reports that are already pulling back built-in fields. Okay, so none of your custom fields are going to be in there, okay, because these are standard kind of across the board. But what you can do is you can use those reports as starting points for creating your own reports. Okay, and there's really just two ways to add a report. One is to click the Add button, okay, and add the report from scratch, or start from a copy of a pre-built report. Okay, and we typically like starting from a copy because we start from something that we already know works. Okay, it already works to a certain degree. We can see, the filtering in place and how it's organized. But before we dive into the creation process, we just want to point out the privilege that's involved here beyond just standard reports access. Users who are checked off for the reports admin privilege, okay, they can do a couple of additional things inside the report tab. They can organize the folders. Okay, so right-click on any of the My folder items, and you can add folders, rename them, delete them, reorganize them. And then you have an additional privilege that allows you to search across all the reports in your company from the search node. So a regular user, a non-reports admin user, could go to the search node and they would see all the reports they have access to. Okay, that's not necessarily all the reports in the system. Okay, but then a reports admin user, when they go to the search node, if they open up the filter, they would see all reports in the system owned by all users, and you're able to edit them from there, delete them, and manage them. Okay, this gives you some ability to keep that reporting area clean and or help your users, if they're struggling building their own reports. From a, I would say more of a user standpoint, okay, we have the ability to view reports, create, edit, delete reports, and then share them. Okay, this looks, and is very similar, okay, to what the permissions are around the list page queries and layouts. A user can run or view them, they can then edit them, create them, and then they could publish them. Okay, so we can give these different layers of reports. And so again, this is one where we want to be a little selective on who we allow to share reports, okay, so that we don't get too many things out there, that are, it kind of gets a little out of control for us. Okay, so we're just breaking down, some of the functions here and what you have to do them. Okay, everything else as far as folder management is all the report admin. Okay, and then being able to run a report, create, edit, delete, and then share is all found in the report privileges section of the user profile. And then we just have a little screen here just as a reminder that, when you're looking at a list of reports, you've got direct access capabilities just like any other grid. So when you right-click, you can run it, you can export it to CSV, to Excel. If you've got the privilege, you can go ahead and share it. And then we have the Add Snapshot. Okay, and this menu is reflected with these icons as well. So we have a number of different ways to get to each one of these functions. Okay, and then we're just showing the concept of the drag and drop. Pretty much anywhere, documents, reports, communicate tabs where you see folder structures and there's lists of records, you can drag and drop those into other folders. Okay, just keep in mind this does not apply to the pre-built folders, okay, or anywhere where there's system data. It's really just the folders that you own, okay, like the My folders. Okay. So the other thing to keep in mind, okay, this is and we'll be going over this through the other sessions when we get into multi-record update, and we've already looked at communicate and snapshotting. You have multiple functions around the reports. Okay, so it's not just dumping data out of the system or displaying it to a web page. Reports are leveraged, okay, with other functions. Particularly multi-record update. We use the report engine to fine-tune or filter down to a set of records that we may want to update the fields of data there or the ownership for them. Okay, so we use the reporting engine to help us get to the right set of data for updating. We use the reports data to get to the correct set of contacts or leads for an email. Okay, so we can use that to launch into our communicate wizard. We use the report, obviously, to generate a snapshot. And then reports are also used from within our Word and Excel add-ins. Okay, so when you're trying to merge against a Word template, create a Word merge document, you can use reports, okay, to query out a set of data. So if we wanted to send a letter out about a trade show and we wanted to send it to all the Georgia clients, okay, we could use the report from within Word add-in to pull the right list of people. Same thing with Excel. If we're trying to pull a set of data into Excel that we want to work with further, we can leverage an already built report, okay, in Salesnet to pull that data in. All right, so what's our process for creating a report? This again, it starts with something kind of outside the system anyway. It's the same as we consider working with a process or starting a process. We really want to step back and look at it from the real world point of view. What is it? What data do I need to see? What management report do we need? What are we trying to achieve, okay, in the real world? From that, standpoint, if we can nail that down, if we can understand what it is that we really are needing, then we can start to map it into Salesnet. And we can say, well, what kind of data is that? Is that from the leads area, or is that from the opportunity area? Are we more interested in appointments and tasks? That would be an activity. Then we know which area inside the report tree we need to go work in. Okay. Then, we would recommend, until you're at least comfortable with building reports, that you start with a pre-built report. Okay, and it, especially if it's in the same area, once you run it, there's potential that it's already bringing back data, so it gives you a good sense for, the filter that's already there, what's it doing, and you can start tweaking it, okay, from that point and start to form it, into the report that you need. And then we just walk our way down the report definition. Okay, so when we look at a report, it has multiple sections, and we need to visit every section of the report, okay, and configure it. And then it's an iterative process. Okay, you get it to a point where you think it looks good, you run it and look at it, and then come back and make a few more tweaks. And if you're building a report that's going to pull back large amounts of data, okay, and it seems to take a while for it to run, or for you to work with it, sometimes we recommend, well, maybe you just for a short period while you're working on the report, maybe you filter it down to all accounts that start with A, and maybe that filters it down to a handful of records or a smaller set of records that you can work with. So that's kind of a tip and trick when you're going through that iterative development process. Okay, so what we're going to do is, in the next set of slides, we're going to walk through every section, okay, in the report definition. All right, and then we'll go into the reporting area, and we'll actually run a few reports, build a few reports, and perform snapshots. And then we'll take questions at the end and work on any specific reports that you guys might be interested in. Okay. So the first section in a report definition, okay, is the properties. And this is pretty standard, pretty basic. It's just the report name. Okay, it's a description of the report to just help with identifying the nature of the report, and then what folder it's located in. So again, the folder drop down here is one of those features that you can perform in multiple places. I can drag and drop reports, okay, in between folders when I'm looking at a list of reports, or I can edit the report and assign its folder location from here. Okay, but that's the most basic piece of information about our report. And then our second section is called presentation options. Okay, so we have 3 options here for you to check off or uncheck. And when reports are created, from pre-built reports at least, the first 2 items are always checked off, and the second one is unchecked. Okay, so let's go through each one of those. So by default, we typically recommend that you show the reporting criteria. And that just means when a person runs the report, they're going to see the filters that were applied in the report. And this can be very helpful in understanding truly, the data that's being returned to the page. All right, so it's one thing to read the name, but it's another, to actually see, the restrictive filters inside the report. So we do like to show the report criteria if possible. The second checkbox is geared towards the generation of detailed reports. So detailed reports being reports that bring back lists of data. Okay, so if you're bringing back a list of companies, okay, if you include the checkbox for hyperlink relevant info, then what it will do is it will provide a link on the company name so that you can launch right into the account detail. Okay, so we can enable hyperlinks on each detail row that allows us to drill in through the reports. Again, this can be very helpful if someone is running a report and then needs to go into pieces of data to review further or update information there. Okay, so that's geared towards detailed reports. Then the third option, okay, would be going away from a detailed report and generating a subtotal report only. So let's say we're bringing back a report that shows us all the companies by state. Okay, so we have it broken out by state. If we wanted to run a subtotal report only, it would just give us the state and the number. So the state name and the number of accounts. State name, number of accounts. Okay, that would be a subtotal report, no detail included. Okay, so if you wanted something subtotal, then you would need to check it off. Okay, but by default, most things are going to come out as detail. Okay. Our third section in reporting is all about what fields are we going to show. And this is where I like to equate this to creating a listing layout. So creating a layout on the list page is all about the fields that you're going to show on the layout. Well, that's what this section is about in reports. What application fields are you going to show on the report? And so we can go through and pick fields, and then there's a number of things that we can set about them. One is we can set the label. We can do that same thing on the layout. When we add fields, we don't have to use, the abbreviation field name. We can set our own report labels, okay, to be used inside the report. Next, we can set our grouping and sorting. Okay, now, we don't define those for the list layouts, but those are functions that you can perform on the list page, right? If you check off your group checkbox, you can group by fields, and you can click on field names to sort. Okay, so here we're just defining up front how we want to group a given report. So let's say we want to see opportunity values by salesperson. Then we might group by owner. Okay, and then we can define the sorting level, and we can sort ascending or descending. Okay, so this really, again, is all about what fields are we going to show and how are we going to organize them. Are we going to create subgroups? Are we going to sort by certain fields? And then we can apply aggregate functions. Okay, so if you have any kind of number field, okay, and that can be currency, integer, decimal, you can perform a sum, average, min, and max on each one of those fields. And it will do that for the subgroup and for the overall total. Okay, so application field, all about what fields are we going to show and how are we going to organize. So this is similar to the list layout. Then we have our first filtering section, and this is custom filters, and this is the data filters. Okay, this section applies filtering based on the fields of data. Okay, so again, if we go back and think about what we just looked at when we build queries, okay, queries has two screens to set up when you build a query. The first one are what are your data field filters, and then the second one is what is your ownership. Okay, so here we're only concerned about the data, right? And where the reports takes this to the next level is that it allows you to do complex filtering. So we're not just locked into and filtering. Okay, we can make and or. So I want opportunities where the finish date is this quarter or next quarter. Okay, where the finish date is this year or next year. Okay, those kind of things. And you can define that complex filter. So I can and some things together and then or some other fields. and we can use our parentheses, okay, to control, how things are executed. So way back to your math rules when you're combining equations and how you want things and ORed. Okay, so this is our data filter. Next section is our ownership filter. So PTU, right? How are we going to filter on ownership? Now we're bringing in another concept here that you kind of saw in our built-in queries. I want to look at my opportunities versus all opportunities. Well, now when we build reports, okay, we want to think about this the same way. I can build a report that looks across all opportunities. And what that means is whoever runs that report, whatever user I've shared it to, and they run the report, that means that they're going to see all opportunities that they have access to. Okay, so as an application administrator, you have access to all data in the database. So let's say that results in 10,000 account records. If I share that report with my sales manager from the West Coast, when he runs it and he looks at all opportunities, he maybe sees just opportunities for his division or his region. He doesn't see the East Coast because he's not been granted access. So all opportunities for him means something different than all opportunities for an application admin. Then we can hard code ownership. Like we said, maybe we want to run a cross-selling team opportunity report, and I can select that as a team designation. Okay, so again, filtering on ownership second and separate, okay, then filtering on our data fields. And then finally, our section at the very bottom is for sharing. Okay, and this is publishing the report out to other users to see and to run. Okay, and that, again, that comes from, the reporting privileges in the user profile. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going into our Salesnet account, and we're going to look at a couple of reports. We'll go through and examine the sections. Okay, and then we'll run a few examples, and then we'll go into snapshotting. Okay, so if we look at, our folder structure here, we have it all the way open. You'll see our pre-built folders at the top. You'll see the My folders next, my reports, my snapshots, my reports, my snapshots. Okay, and then we have shared. Okay, so we only see things show up here if something has been shared, okay, with other users. Okay, so we can see here we have one shared lead report, and down in opportunities we have 3. Okay, and one's been shared by Salesnet 03 and 2 have been shared by TED Salesnet. Okay, if I come back up and I look in my search node and I look at search reports, okay, you can see here I have access to 175 reports. And you'll see they're owned by different users. I have Salesnet 03, I have mine as TED Salesnet, and I have the system reports. So if I wanted to look at all of Salesnet 03's reports, I could do that. Okay, I could edit them and help that user with these reports. I could run them, snapshot them. I have full control over the reports here as a report administrator. Okay. So let's go and look at the opportunity reports that we've created. And I'm just going to, I'm going to right-click and collapse and go into the opportunity reports. Okay, so let's run a couple of reports here. Let's see, current calendar year, and let's see what we're getting back in our reports. Okay, So here's a report. It's called One Business, okay? And the initials just stand for someone who is working in the system here. And what you'll see when I run the report is at the top, okay, we have our criteria, our report criteria. This is where we can see the filters that are used. And so I can see we're looking at the outcome is one of 1, and the sales process is one of sales. Okay, so all 1 sales opportunities. Next, we can see that we're grouped by month. Okay, so we're being grouped here, and it looks like we're doing a sort by month first. Okay. If we keep going down, we'll see it grouped all the way because there's no time frame. And you'll notice that we're running an average and a total for every subgrouping. And then at the very bottom, we get a total record count and a total report value. Okay. If we edit this guy, okay, we'll see it's pulling all opportunities. So there's no real ownership filtering, set ownership filtering. I'm just going to see everything that I have access to. Okay. So let's look at a couple of reports that we've worked with in the past where we've made snapshots. Okay, how do I know what snapshots I have? Well, first of all, we can see here that on this report we have 3 snapshots. So the camera icon means create a snapshot, so create a new snapshot. The multi-camera icons with the number means that there's actually a snapshot already there. There's actually 3. And when I click on that, it opens up a second window where I can see the snapshots and I can manage them or play with them if I want to. Compare them, okay, work with it from there. Once the snapshot's made, I can't edit anything about the snapshot except the name of it, and then I can delete it. Okay, so I can't modify the data in the snapshot. That is the data as it existed when that report was run in the past. I could also go to my search node and go to my snapshots icon, and I can look at snapshots from here as well, and I can see what reports they're hanging off of and what folder name they may be living in at this point. Okay, so I can work with snapshots, from this side too to figure out how they're dispersed or how they exist in the system. Okay, so let's start with our calendar year commit to forecast. Okay, we've already run some of those in the past, and so why don't we look at that report, maybe we'll modify some things about it, and we'll look at how that affects our snapshot as we go forward. So I'm going to go to my opportunity reports. I'll go back to my snapshot item, and I'm going to click the edit icon. Okay, this brings up the report for me. Okay, and I can edit each section. I can walk through each section as we have discussed. Okay, so let's first look at the results of this report so we know what we're working with. First of all, I can run the show count, and that tells me how many records are coming back. Okay, so that's sometimes a good indicator of what we're expecting. I might have been expecting 10 records, and now I see I'm getting 0. Okay, so that's definitely a problem. So if I'm getting 0 records returned, that tells me I probably have something wrong with my filter combos here. I'm filtering too far. Okay, so let's go and look at, let's edit our filters. And I don't want to restrict too far. And so what my intention was for this report was commit to forecast. So I want anything that's still open, okay, but I want things that have been committed to the forecast. Okay, so this is where the first thing you want to do is decide the data that you want, and then you have to start working on mapping it into Salesnet, because you'll have to get used to some terminologies like outcome, the opportunity outcome. There's only 3 choices: won, lost, or no outcome. If we're trying to produce a pipeline report, like what do we think we're going to close, then we don't want things that already have decisions made about them. We only want ones that have no outcome, right? Finish date is during the current calendar year, and commit to forecast is yes. Commit to forecast is a custom field in this account, and if it's set, and we can allow users to set it to yes, and then we can filter on that as an additional piece of data. So let's save that. I took off a number of filters, and now let's show count and see what we have. 11 records. Great. So let's run that. And you can see we're doing lots of little aggregate functions here. That's why you're going to see so many things in the footer. So we have March, we have Honeywell, and then we're grouping by two values. We're grouping by month and then by lead source. So April, we had an other, May, other, June, an existing customer, and then some non-specified, trade show. So you can see we're subtotaling for every, subgroup here, until finally we have 11 records, and then here's all of our aggregate functions at the bottom. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take a snapshot of this now. And I just click the snapshot button. Again, that's the same thing as right-clicking on the report and choosing snapshot, or clicking the snapshot icon. Okay, so we'll wind up at the same point, okay, if we just click the snapshot icon. And what it does is it takes the report name and then it appends the date that you're running it. Okay, for my purposes that works great. If I take more than one snapshot today, then I'll have to start modifying the name from there. And then I can share this snapshot, and you'll see my counts incremented. I have 4 snapshots now, 4 listed here, there are 4 shared. So if you log into the admin account, you'll be able to see that snapshot as well. Okay, so we're going to come back and look at snapshots, okay. After we finish, we're going to actually go through and build a couple little things here. Okay, so let's start with our pre-built reports. And let's look at our all overdue opportunities. Because let's say we want to build a report where we can see overdue opportunities, that we want to pull in some of our own information. Okay, so when I look at overdue opportunities, okay, I can perform a show count. We have a lot of overdue opportunities here, so I like it. This is a good one for me, but you'll see, I mean, the fields coming back are only built-in fields, and there's none of my configured data here. So I'm just going to click the Save As button, and I'm going to change the name. I can change the description, and I can decide to put it in a subfolder if I want to. And I can pick pipeline reports. Okay, I only have one subfolder, and it's displayed here, and so I'll click Save. Now, if you'll notice, when things refreshed, I'm editing my own report, so I have all my edit buttons. And you can see that there's now one report showing up in the pipeline report folder. Okay, so report properties, that's really what I filled out when I clicked Save As. But we can look at it again. So I can fill that in. Here's my presentation options. Like we said, whenever we start from a pre-built report, these two are always checked off, and we're not ever set for subtotal. Okay, so let's save that. And then we can pick our fields. And keep in mind, when we're in the opportunity report area, okay, because opportunities have to be linked to contacts and contacts are linked to companies, not only can I show opportunity fields here, but I can also show contact and account fields here as well. Okay, so I don't have to just show just my opportunity fields. So let's take away a few things. So I think I do want to show step. I don't really care about process. I want to show due date, the opportunity name, and this value will be hyperlinked for me when I run the report. Step notes, maybe not so much, and then owner. Okay, now when I look at my values, I want to look at my forecasted deal value. And then let's look at our custom fields. What do we have for custom fields here? We have a lot of fields. So let's pull in this guy. And let's pull in one of our functions here. So we have a couple of additional fields in the reporting area. One of these is number of associated contacts. This is not a custom field. This is a system calculated field. Okay, this is going to give me a list of all the opportunities with the number of contacts linked into that opportunity. And then we have some formatted date fields. Okay, if you'll see here, we have finish date, calendar year quarter, fiscal year quarter. Okay, so we can pick some fields that Salesnet is going to already format for us so that we can get, it doesn't have to be, month, day, year. We maybe want to use the year month designation, okay, to get a more grouped breakdown. I can pick the primary contacts information, and you'll see it's going on with the abbreviation, their title, and maybe we want to pick their phone and email. Then I may want to see my company information, so my account name, city, state, zip, any other custom information. And so now I have all these fields in place, and I have the abbreviation in front of them telling me what type of data field it is. And so now the ordering is important for two reasons. One, it's for the order that you would like it to be presented in the report. But two, if there are things that we want to group by, we need to push them to the top of the list. Okay, so I like being able to group by current step, but let's say I want to group by state. Okay, but if I just click next at this point, what you're going to see is I can't group by state. It's way down here because what has happened is we have a field above it, okay, that is not groupable. The system is not going to let me group by opportunity name, okay, because opportunity name is generally unique, okay, in a system. And so grouping by that field would not produce, valid subgrouping. So we have to get the fields that we want to group by to the top of the list. So let me go back, and I'm going to push my company state to the top. And so I've just highlighted it, and I'm clicking the Move Up button. Now when I click Next, I can group by state. Okay. Next, we have to deal with sort level, and sort level has to be unique within Salesnet. And I think I just want to sort by date, and I want to sort by date descending. All right, and then I'm just going to sum contacts and deal value. Okay, so I'm expecting my report to come back with the state being one of my grouping, being grouped for me. Everything's going to be sorted by due date, and then we're going to sum contacts and deal value. So that's enough. I've not changed anything about filtering, but I've changed the output for sure. So I want to run that report. So the thing I love about an opportunity report, okay, is that I can pull in the fields from the opportunity record, the account record, and the contact record, and I have hyperlinks, okay, to each one of those records. I can drill into the opportunity, I can drill into the contact, and I can drill into the account. You're going to notice that we're grouped by state. Okay, so we have our state grouped out, and we have some with none, and then we have Alabama, California. Okay, you can see it's grouped out, and we get subtotals for each until the very bottom when we get a total of 56 records and a total deal value and contact count. Okay, so let's go back up. Let's look at one of our opportunities that has the 5 contacts. When I click it and launch the detail and go to the Contacts tab, you'll see my contacts listed here. Okay. Okay, so let's snapshot this guy. I'll close him. He's in here. So you'll see there's no snapshot now. If I click the snapshot icon, it puts the date on there for me. I can share it if I want to and click Save. Okay. All right, so we went through, we looked at the field selection, and now let's look at our filters. Okay, so I just want to look at data filters. And if I look at my data filters, the nice thing about opportunity reports again is I can filter on opportunity data, I can filter on contact fields and company fields. This is probably the most flexible area of the system, in that I'm trying to do an opportunity report, but I can use fields from other areas to perform the filtering for me. So now I could, if I wanted to, just look at particular states or states that were not empty, right? So if I click Next now, my other 2 filters are set, so I'm looking at anything that's overdue as of today. So and this is maybe kind of complicated. When you look at dates, we can create these rolling reports. Okay, so we don't have to hard code our date values. We can create reports that no matter what day I run it, it's going to give me everything that's overdue as of today. So, is less than or equal to the start of the current day. And this is just one of those things where you have to play, okay, with the combination of values here. So step due date, status, and then I want to pick is not one of blank. Okay, so I don't have to go through and select each state field, each state individually. I can just say, give me everything where there's no blanks, and save. Now what do I get back? Let's show count. Only 59, and then let's run it. Okay, so now I'm going to change a couple of values here. So let's change the name of this. And the owner. And then on one of my 0 value guys, I'm going to change the dollar amount. And then for this guy, I'm going to delete a record. Okay. And you can see after I did that, we got a little refresh on the report. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to make another snapshot. Let's call it B. So I've set us up with a couple of different snapshots. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint and let's look at, our tips on reports. Just to recap, you can organize your folders. You want to be fairly specific about who can share reports with other people. The concept of my and all, when you build a report, that just means whoever runs it is going to see, their data. Okay, they're going to see, what they have access to. Okay, so my and all can mean different things to different users depending on their data access. When we build filters, we can actually put the field in more than once so that we can create those OR combinations. And then the hyperlink information on the presentation option, that's a huge efficiency thing for users who are running the reports to the screen. Now, snapshot. Let's hop in there and do a couple of comparisons after these slides, and then we'll answer your questions. So Snapshots has its own set of permissions just under the reporting permission, and it's the same concept of view, create, and share. So I can view the ones that are there for me, I can create ones for myself, or I can even share the ones that I create. Okay, so snapshots are shown hanging off of their parent reports, or you can dig into snapshots from the search and recent items, or you can look in the snapshot folders underneath under each reporting area. So again, this is one of those items where you can get to the functionality from a few different places. Okay. When we go to compare snapshots, it's a very simple process. We just highlight the two records that we want to compare by holding down our Control key or our Shift key, and then we right-click and choose Compare Snapshots. When we do that, we get a comparison window where we can pick, to show, everything that matches, things that don't match from one, things that are new in the other. We can create a different combination. When I'm first starting snapshots, I typically recommend you check off everything. Okay, and then you can pick which fields you want to include. You can create number fields and date fields a little differently. You can make it show differences. So if it was $10,000 here and $5,000 there, you can make the comparison engine tell you -5,000. Okay. Once we do that, we get a color-coded output. Okay, in this output, you'll have a color key button where you can launch the the translation or the legend here, and now we can read through and see what this means. So green means that that was something that was deleted from the primary to the secondary. Anything in the red text, okay, means that that has changed. Okay, anything highlighted yellow, okay, we're seeing the same thing there. Okay, anything, the gray and white just gives you the alternating colors to help you read the report a little better. All right, so let's go into our live examples, and here's the two that we just created. Okay, so I'm in my snapshot window already. I'm holding down my Shift key. I'm going to right-click and choose Compare Snapshot. It automatically loads it up for me, the primary and the secondary. I want to show all differences. I want to show everything that's the same and different. I want it to look at all fields. Okay, you could ask it just to compare on date if you wanted to. We'll show the change. Okay, there's no date changes in this one, but we do have a dollar change. And then we'll choose Compare. Okay, takes it a second to generate. And now we can get our color key. So this is kind of an interesting output, right? The top part is basically highlighted all green. That is because in our second report, we excluded anything that was blank. Okay, so all of the records that had state chosen as blank, okay, they're missing in the second snapshot. Okay, so these all show up as things that existed in the primary, but not in the secondary. Okay, which makes our subtotals different. Now we changed a record, right? We changed its name and the owner. Okay. And then here we changed, we deleted this guy. We took one out. And so I kind of forgot that we had excluded an entire section at the top. And then if we scroll down, everything else is looking pretty, pretty vanilla here. But in the end, we wind up with, the difference being highlighted for us. And it tells us, okay, this is what it was initially. Here's what it is at the end. and then we're getting the difference calculated for us. Okay, a difference in 9 contacts, 12% difference, the difference in revenue and how much, so it's dropped 26%. So kind of a nice little piece of information there at the end. Okay, and then just to show the point of, I had snapshots stored from a long time ago. I'm sorry, I went into the wrong, I went into the reports. Okay, so these all came from the same report, and so I can make a comparison, from March to June. And here we're going to see a lot of differences because we even excluded columns in these cases. Okay, so now we have lots of ownership change. We had a lot of date changes. We're asking it to calculate the difference. We have some records added, okay, to that section. Okay, and over here we have fields. We pulled some fields out, okay, from the original to the second. Okay, that's for our reports and snapshots. Let me stop the recording.